Good afternoon or good morning wherever you are, and welcome to our webinar on RitePlanning for Holy Week and special services using RitePlanning.com by Church Publishing Incorporated and hosted by Augsburg Fortress. I'm your host, Michael Moore, and over the course of the webinar, we will go over the three principal services for Holy Week, starting with Monday, Thursday, then Good Friday, and then Easter Vigil. Along the way, we will explore some of the more advanced features of RitePlanning. Please note, if you are looking for a basic site overview webinar, we have one archived for you on YouTube. You can get there by the following steps. First, go to augsburgfortress.org, and when you're there, click in the search box and search for RitePlanning. Doesn't matter if there's a space there or not, it will find it for you. And search. When you get there, click on RitePlanning.com from Church Publishing Incorporated. It takes you to our sign up page where you can scroll down to learn more in our free webinars. Click the last word there here that's highlighted slightly in green, and it takes you to our webinar sign up page where the archived webinar is down at the bottom of the page. Click here, and it will take you to the YouTube archived webinar where we'll give you a better view of just the basics of the site and what you find when you log in and what you see there. So if you haven't done that already and you are here looking at how to plan for Holy Week, etc., I think it would be really just fine if you went and looked at the other webinar as well. We will send you a link to this one and archive it as well so you can catch up with it or watch it again. And we're happy to have you here. If you need help finding it, if for some reason the instructions here were a little bit difficult or there was a glitch in your computer or something, email webhelp@augsburgfortress.org. and we'll send you a link to the webinar. We have it pretty handy and we can make sure that you get it. So again, with a question like, where do I find your basic webinar? Please email webhelp, W-E-B-H-E-L-P, @augsburgfortress.org. We'll get to planning Holy Week services in a moment. But first I want to talk a little bit about the lectionary, the Book of Common Prayer, and RitePlanning. In 2006, the Episcopal Church adopted the Revised Common Lectionary for church-wide use. This replaced the 3-year lectionary printed in earlier versions of the Book of Common Prayer. If your church is like my church, there are lots of different copies of the Book of Common Prayer floating around from the very old to the very new. We even have a set of copies of the Book of Common Prayer here in our office that have the Revised Common Lectionary printed as the lectionary in the back of the book, but still have the lectionary readings from the Book of Common Prayer listed in the services for Holy Week and other special days in the body of the book. This is true for Maundy Thursday service that begins on page 274 of the Book of Common Prayer. If you're using a hard copy of the Book of Common Prayer to help you plan, take a few moments to be sure the readings you want to plan are the readings that come up in the planner. It's easy to do this by looking at the readings for the day before you start your plan. And don't worry, RitePlanning has you covered no matter which version of the readings you want to use. For our plans today, we are going to use the Revised Common Lectionary readings, and the Revised Common Lectionary set is the one RitePlanning uses by default. But if you want to use the Book of Common Prayer lectionary for planning this service or any other service, it's possible to do so by following these steps. Click on My Account at the top of any page in RitePlanning. Now this takes you to a setting, to a page with all kinds of possible personal settings and the like that we've talked about a little bit in our basic webinar. And we give you an overview in that webinar, so check that out if you'd like to take a look. It's toward the end of the webinar. It's one of the last things we do, but we do talk very extensively about how to use the settings page, the My Account pages here in RitePlanning. Where we want to look for this purpose is in the personal settings, and you'll see that here I am. My my username and a security question. All of my work here is in-house. I haven't done a security question. I'm not terribly worried about it. We also get what the calendar planner view is, my personal preferences for what the portion to download should be, and the lectionary. If you want to use the Book of Common Prayer lectionary, click in that dot and be sure to save your changes. This choice takes effect for any plans that you make after you save the changes to your preferences. So if you're in the middle of planning the service and you want to use the other set of readings, you'll need to click on Start Over, answer Yes, and start again with a fresh plan that will include the lectionary reading set you have chosen as the default. So let's now turn to Holy Week, starting with Maundy Thursday. RitePlanning provides everything that is contained in the Book of Common Prayer for all the special services of Holy Week as well as others. By making some choices up front, planning those services becomes much easier. After we make those basic choices, I'm going to spend some time showing you how to adjust the service plan in some very specific ways, and you can use those methods to adapt your plan for your church. You may have specific questions for your situation we might not be able to address, given that each church has a unique environment. So if we don't answer your question in this webinar, don't worry. You can email me directly. My email address is moorem@1517.media. That's MOOREM@1517.media. And I will be happy to help you personally. Please include a phone number in case we need to walk through this together. I've really found over time conversation helps a lot. So the first step in planning Maundy Thursday is to get to the right date after you log in. When you log in, you'll see exactly what you see on our shared screen right now, which is until April 1st, March 2009. Remember that anything you see a gray circle on is a place where we have created a worship plan, and the green circle is today's date. But Maundy Thursday is in April, so we need to move our calendar to the next month. Do that by clicking on that arrow next to March. And we come up with the first plannable date in the new month, which is Lent 5, April 7th. So note that the banner changes when you change months to the first plannable date. And you can start Maundy Thursday by clicking on Maundy Thursday. It takes you to that day in the planner, and you can see that that changed to Maundy Thursday Year C. To start a plan for Maundy Thursday Year C, simply click Plan It. Not sure when Maundy Thursday is this year? Don't worry. Click on View Larger Calendar. The default setting in RitePlanning takes you to a month-long calendar for the month of April. And you can look for Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and Easter Vigil right there in the middle. In that case, click on the 18th, and it takes us to a page where the plannable services for that week are mostly there. Note that we have Passion Sunday, Palm Sunday, the previous Sunday, Maundy Thursday, and Easter Day. Now, one thing you'll notice is Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and the Great Vigil of Easter are not there. To avoid a bit of confusion, those don't pop up at this point, but when we click on those specific dates, they will. So let's look at the plan for Maundy Thursday. First thing you have to do is choose which liturgy you want. For Maundy Thursday, there aren't any actual extra choices, at least at this step, so we click right here. Now the choices begin. For Maundy Thursday, we can choose to do the standard entrance rite at RitePlanning, the Great Litany from the Book of Common Prayer, the Great Litany from Enriching Our Worship, or the penitential order. The other choice we need to make at this step, obviously, is which Eucharistic prayer to use, later in the service. Eucharistic Prayer A from Book of Common Prayer, or any of the more inclusive options for prayers A, B, C, and D, or the Eucharistic prayers 1, 2, and 3 from Enriching Our Worship. For today, we're going to leave it pretty basic and use Eucharistic Prayer A and the entrance rite, and we click to continue. This brings us to the point where we start making choices for our plan. The service here defaults to having something for foot washing after the homily that comes in. This is in the Book of Common Prayer. It comes up by default in RitePlanning for services planned on this date. If you don't wash feet at your church, don't worry. There are 2 ways to deal with that. One, you can click on this circle here, and we'll do that some more later in the webinar to show you what the consequences are. Or if we preview this the way we have it now, let me change my portion to download just a little bit. Okay, good, we've got the full liturgical text. And we look at that, this is what you'll get. If you change the portion to download, however, to none, and now you preview it, you get nothing. And if you don't wash feet at your church, that's an option to use if you don't want to have any reference to foot washing in your plan for Maundy Thursday. And that works just brilliantly. It's an easy thing to do, just select none. If, however, we want to include that, we can have the title. And when we preview that on the title, all it says is foot washing dialogue. We can put the hymn number with it, or in this case, it's not a hymn number, it's just the page number in the Book of Common Prayer, which appears in the parentheses, Book of Common Prayer, page 274. We can include the full liturgical text, which gets us that. Or if we want any rubrics that might occur as well, we can do that right here. All of those choices are yours, your service, your choice. But what if we want to pull out a few more stops and add, well, maybe a little extra music or something that's not quite the ordinary here, right at this spot? RitePlanning has you covered. To show this, let's look at the dialogue for foot washing and add a custom element to our plan that keeps everything as it's laid out in the Book of Common Prayer, but allows us to add a musical setting of the dialogue. We'll follow these steps. Click on the right-facing arrow. This drops a custom element in right below that spot. Add a title. Choose the type of element that you want to add in this spot. In this case, we're going to choose a hymn or song. Click on the magnifying glass here in the middle because we need to choose the song that we're going to use. And then, in the words and lyrics spot, look for feet and tell it to search. Uh-oh, dang, no results. So we have a bit of a problem here because there isn't anything recommended for this spot in the service that has the word feet in it. So we're going to refine our search. These 2 boxes are always checked according to the day that you're planning and the portion of the service. In this case, the program didn't say foot washing dialogue, but that's what it's looking for when we go to search. So if we uncheck those boxes and begin the search again, we find that we have lots of results with the word feet, more than 5 pages of them. But the one we're looking for is S347, Anthems at the Foot Washing. If we preview this, we will see that, wow, here's a whole set of that same dialogue we had before, that's set for somebody who might want to chant this service. It's kind of a cool thing to do if you're into that. And it's available to you at RitePlanning.com. So let's go ahead and add S347 to our worship plan. Now, in order to keep this in our plan, we need to click on Insert. And when we insert it, it becomes an element that we can use right there in that service. Now, what we don't need anymore is this particular foot washing dialogue, because we have it as a musical setting right below. So in order to deal with that, we just cut it out of the service. You'll note that it says this item has been placed on your RitePlanning clipboard. More about the clipboard later, but that clipboard is a really nice thing to have handy. So now we have a musical setting of the foot washing dialogue for Maundy Thursday. But it takes a little time to wash all those feet, doesn't it? So let's add another custom element so that the people who are waiting around, either having had their feet washed or not yet having had their feet washed, or just sitting in the congregation waiting for this part of the service to move on, let's add another custom element for a hymn. And again, just like before, we're going to put a hymn in here. We're going to select a custom element, which is again going to be a hymn and song. We're going to go looking for it. This time, there isn't anything to do with the advanced search, so we want to uncheck that to make sure that we get all of our possible choices. And now, let's look for a specific set of words. I have a hymn in mind. And let's look for it. Kneels at the feet of his friends, hymn 602 in hymnal 1982. In order to do this one, all we have to do is hit select, hit insert. Now we have a sung foot washing dialogue and a hymn to sing while people are washing their feet. It's as easy as that when the time comes. But remember, the reminder here is when you go searching for a specific piece of music in a specific spot in the service, you're going to want to make sure that if you don't think there's any recommendation for it, uncheck those boxes at the top of the overlay to take those filters off the search. You can always try it first the way we did with the one looking for the foot washing dialogue. And if you get no results, refine your search, go back and do it again. You might still get no results and you might have to change your search keywords or again, uncheck another box to make sure that what you get is what you're looking for. But patience and persistence, especially early on, will help you with all of that. So how about a second communion hymn? It works exactly the same way. After the foot washing dialogue, if you're familiar with planning and RitePlanning, you find that it's pretty much the same as any other planning for Holy Eucharist Rite 2. And you need to maybe change some things or add some things or whatever. Again, we're not creating complete services here today. We're talking about special elements. So we're not going to download any of these things today as we do the webinar, but we are going to do some of the little bits of bells and whistles that will help you be able to customize worship plans any way you'd like. So if we look for communion hymns for Maundy Thursday, this time we'll leave the boxes checked again, and we'll go and we will choose one. Here's a good one for an opening Eucharist. Lift Every Voice and Sing, number 152. We'll put that in there. It's going to take a little longer to do communion, so again, we can add an element, give it a title. Select the type of element again. Search for it. Again, leaving the boxes checked because this is a communion for Maundy, Thursday. And go find a different one that we want. So how about when Jesus died to save us? That'll work. Now you have a second communion hymn. Once again, don't forget to click the check mark and it saves in your plan. That little green flash that you see, that means RitePlanning has saved your plan. Every time you see that flash, your plan has been saved. So let's move on to Good Friday. Once we select Good Friday, we get some choices that are not found in other services that we're going to. So we're going to loop back a few times to see how those things look a little different. So again, you see here at this step, Palm Sunday, Good Friday, no Maundy, Thursday, Easter Day, and Easter evening, and a special service. So this time we'll plan Good Friday. And the choices that we find when we loop through here, there are three. Good Friday with the special anthems, Good Friday with anthems and Holy Communion administered from reserved sacrament, or no anthems or Holy Communion. Pretty clearly, the simplest one of those is going to be no anthems or Holy Communion, so let's start there. And you'll see that we have the opening acclamation, the collect of the day, first reading, psalm, second reading, etc., all the way down. And it's not all that long a plan, but the choices are straightforward. Only things we need to worry about are the hymn choices if we've selected the right portion to download. So let's check on that a little bit. Note what my portion to download is when we're doing the opening acclamation. I'm a church musician, so I'm a bit of a music geek. I like when I plan to have hymn numbers and the like, or sung elements inserted whenever that's possible. And especially when we were doing some of the initial planning, it was kind of nice to know what it looked like to have those things happen. But if I'm going to do a spoken opening acclamation and I preview it, all we're going to get is the opening acclamation and page 276 from the Book of Common Prayer. There won't be any content. But since we decided in our worship planning meeting last week that we were going to do a spoken opening acclamation, we need to reset the portion that we're going to download. We're going to take music off, and we're going to put full liturgical text in, and now we're going to preview it again. And now we get "Blessed be our God forever and ever, amen," so that the people know what's happening for that opening acclamation. So one of the things you want to make sure you do after you've set your normal preferences is if those things change, you need to make sure that you reset the portion to download carefully when it comes time to do that. Now we have what I want, so we can move on to the next element. In this case, the next thing that needs checking is the second reading. The first reading is from Isaiah, then there's a psalm, then the second reading. And if we drop that chooser down, we'll see that there are two choices. There's the second reading, and there's the second reading alternate. And again, this is from the Revised Common Lectionary for Year C. So in our worship planning meeting again last week, the priest said, I'm going to do something specific to the second reading. And so we change it. Note that when it changed, it flashed again, and this is saved. RitePlanning saves your plan every time a change is made. If you see the flash, the plan is saved. This is true even if the power goes out, or if your computer does, as it did in our first preview webinar, have the blue screen of death and have to restart, and it kicked everyone out of the webinar. So don't worry, you'll be able to find it again if some sort of computer-related disaster happens. happens. All right, the next thing we want to check on is the Passion Gospel. This is a long reading, and so really we have some choices, and again it has to do with the portion to download. You'll see that this is well more than a chapter of the Gospel of John, and we can put it in as the full citation with all of this, and it takes up a whole lot of paper, and that's great if you want people to read along and that's the way you've decided to do it. But lots of places have pew Bibles, or they're kind of traditional and they want people to listen as the word is proclaimed. Nothing at all wrong with that. That's kind of neat. But all we have to do in that case is, again, select our portion to download, take out any optional verses, take out full liturgical text, and now when we preview again, all we get is the citation for the Passion Gospel, and off we go. The only other things to do then are to select your hymns and choose to download. But as I said, there are two other options for how this service works. So let's try starting over and taking a look at those. It asks, are you sure you want to start over? Click OK. It takes you back to the calendar. Click on Good Friday again. Click on Planet. Click on your Book of Common Prayer Good Friday Liturgy. Choose this time to do anthems, and let's take a look at what the difference is. So now when we scroll down, we've added a few spots in the lectionary after the solemn, in the service, excuse me. After the solemn collects, there's the possibility to have the entrance of the cross. You can carry a cross in at this point. Again, if you don't do the entrance of the cross for Good Friday, select your portion to download, select none, and none of it will download. The alternative, of course, is to clip that out of your service and not worry about it being in there. Either way, none of that portion will download. Then we have the three anthems, and in this case, again, we want them to be spoken, so I need to, at least for this one, to show you how it works, adjust our portion to download so that when we preview it, we get what we want. And because it's responsive and the italics matter, we want to put that in our bulletin. Then at the bottom, we have a cross hymn, which is a hymn for the veneration of the cross. Sing My Tongue the Glorious Battle is one of the possibilities here. And it's the one that's actually referenced in the Book of Common Prayer. So that's one of the possibilities. But there are three others, and you can use any of those as recommended hymns in this spot in the service. If you've got another one that you like in place of any of these, no problem. Remember, refine the search, uncheck the boxes, put in some keywords, and search for it. And you should be able to find it. The recommendations that come when these boxes are checked are the recommendations from our good friends at Church Publishing Incorporated, who went through and created a database of lectionary appropriate hymnody for all of these different spots in the service. So if you're in doubt as to what hymn you might want to use, you've got all kinds of possibilities that they will help you with, as long as it's defined in the service for that spot. Sometimes it's not. You'll get null results. You'll have to do a little bit more searching. But now that you know how to do it, it's not actually all that hard. So, as with all music in RitePlanning Deluxe, when you search for it, you can download it if this icon appears, where my cursor is circling. You can download it if that icon appears. If that icon does not appear, you can't download it from RitePlanning.com. If you can download it from RitePlanning.com, you can use it as a part of your worship service. All the permissions for any music that's downloadable through RitePlanning also carries with it permission for you to use it in the service that you plan. If it's not downloadable, you will need third-party permission. It's a rights issue. Church Publishing Incorporated negotiated the best they could do, and that's what we have. The third option for Good Friday is to do communion from reserved sacraments. So once again, start over. Once again, we assure the program we want to start over. We click on Good Friday one more time and plan it and loop through this. And this time, anthems and Holy Communion administered from reserved sacrament. We continue. We bring that plan up, and we note really the only difference between that one and the one we just took a look at is here where we have the communion. There is a preview of what it is that you were told when that sacrament is handed to you. There's no consecration of the sacrament, so there isn't a Eucharistic prayer, so that's only a very minor addition. So again, you can select to do communion from a reserved sacrament if your church does so, but you can also omit that back in the choosing step when you decide what your base liturgy is going to be. RitePlanning takes care of it all at that level, so you don't have to worry about it. Once again, your service, your choices. The service with the most variation that happens in Holy Week is the service for the Great Vigil of Easter. Many of the choices you face will depend on if there's a baptism or a confirmation or both, or just a renewal of the baptismal covenant. The Book of Common Prayer lays out 9 Old Testament readings, but to qualify as a vigil, only 2 of them need to be done, as long as one of them is the parting of the Red Sea. It's in the rubrics in the Book of Common Prayer. If you look at the preface to that service, you can find all of this stuff, and it's kind of an entertaining read because I learned a lot. I didn't know those things necessarily, and it's good to have them. So on top of where to put all of those baptism references and what Eucharistic prayer to use, plus some places sometimes like to use alternate readings in place of or in addition to Old Testament readings that are listed, or they want to add other responses. So we're going to take a close look at one version of the service and trust that the kinds of choices we made are familiar enough after our time together that you can figure out what to do. The one we'll use for this one, as we plan through, is baptism after the gospel reading. The reason I chose that is that's in the same place as it always is when we have baptism at another day. It's right after the sermon and after the gospel reading. So that creates the rest of that being a normal plan. And the stuff we need to worry about is the stuff that we're dealing with when it comes into the vigil. As always, we start by choosing the service, where we're going to put this, which Eucharistic prayer. All the standard Eucharistic prayer choices are available. I'm leaving it at Eucharistic prayer A, not because I love Eucharistic prayer A any great deal, but it's just the simplest one at this point. You choose your service, your choices. If you decide to do something such as add an additional reading, which happens sometimes, maybe a poem or some other response that comes to the reading, it can be added as a custom text. We haven't discussed much about custom texts. We've done a lot of adding custom elements as music, but let's take a look at doing the custom text. So let's take a look here at this first reading, the story of creation, Genesis 1:1 to 2:4. And maybe we'd like to have somebody read a poem after the psalm that the congregation says in response to this. So let's add it. Choose a title. choose a custom element type. In this case, we want to do a custom text. And we want it to be blank, but you have some choices. You can put in pretty much anything that you've saved as a custom worship text in your previous folder, or if you leave it blank and insert it, now you can click on the pencil to edit it and put it in. You could copy it from a Word document and paste it in. You can type it in. You can do anything you would like right here in the basic text editor. Now you have two choices when it comes time to save it. You can save it specific to this plan, and that puts it right there in that spot in your plan, or you can save it as a custom worship text on the home page of your folder. There's more about that in our basic webinar. And it also saves it in that spot in the plan. So in this case, I'm not worried about a tiny thing like this. So we're just going to save it in the plan, and there it is. Then after that, there's the collect. If you don't want all of these readings, there are 9 of them after all, and we might be here all night if we kept them up. We can cut them out of any of our plans. So if we don't want to deal with, now we have to leave the Red Sea because it's required, but maybe we don't want to do the sacrifice of Isaac this year. It's easy. All you do is clip out the elements that you don't want from the plan, does a little dance, puts it on your clipboard. You take out the third response as well. You take out the third collect. Now, bear in mind, if you do this, the one thing you're probably going to have to do is then readjust all the numbering for all the readings that follow. Because as you can see, we just got rid of the third reading. So we go from second reading to fourth reading without any reference to a third reading. People in your congregations notice this stuff. So you're going to have to do a little bit of legwork to fix that, but it's possible. So we decided not to read Isaac this year, and we've taken care of that. And so now let's talk a little bit about our RitePlanning clipboard. The elements you clip are placed on the clipboard, and there's a way to insert them. There's no real limit on the number of things you can put in your clipboard. We just clipped 3 things out of this service, and each one of them was placed on the clipboard. So here's how this works. If you want to add a hymn in response to a reading, we can do it easily. Let's do a hymn in response to the Red Sea. 4th reading, we want to add a hymn after Canticle 8 and before the 4th collect. So let's take a look here. Select another hymn, song, go looking. Now, let's look for Red Sea. Well, here we go. Through the Red Sea broad at last. Let's take a look at that one. Uh-oh, forbidden word. Can't use that one in Lent, and we haven't proclaimed the resurrection yet, so let's leave that one out. How about wisdom freed a holy people? Let's take a look at that one. Okay, that looks like it'll work. So let's select that one from Voices Found. Goes right in here. We save it. Now, we decide as we're planning Perhaps we don't want that hymn in that spot. Maybe we want it after the collect. Two ways to do this, and they're easy. This up and down arrow here means you can drag and drop, and it goes in after the fourth collect. It's just that simple. The other way though, remember I talked about that clipboard? So now it's before. Let's cut that element, and we decide we want it after the fourth collect. So let's insert another custom element. This time a clipboard item. We select one. Here's our hymn. Select, insert, there it goes. And you'll notice when we brought that list of things down, everything we had cut during this section out of a worship plan was on the clipboard for us to paste in that manner. Another word about the RitePlanning clipboard, it's just like any other clipboard. It's just like the clipboard in Word. It's just like the clipboard in any other piece of software that has a place where you can put something on a clipboard and hang on to it for a while. If you go out of the program, if you shut the program down, just like if you click the X for Word, you're going to lose the contents of your clipboard. We don't limit the amount of material you can put on your clipboard. It's not one item, it's as many items as you want, but as soon as you close your session, you're going to lose that content. So that's the basics for the kinds of special elements that we can do using RitePlanning with custom texts, custom music elements, and the like. It allows you to just continue going down, making choices as you go, turning all the different corners that we have as we do these things in a standard service, turns planning into a quick and convenient exercise. As we said in the basic webinar, we have a few minutes, we'll go over a couple of those things as well. Any turn you need to take in a plan has been put into one of the recipes that we have in RitePlanning for planning services. So if you can do it according to the rubrics in the Book of Common Prayer, you pretty much can do it in RitePlanning. It's a very nice thing. So that's the basics for doing some special elements and special worship planning. Let's take a look at some of the rest of the site real quickly as a quick overview for those of you who might want to use it, or to take a look at some of the extra things that we can do. Let's start with the library. The library for this site is all of the authorized content that we can get from the Episcopal Church and from Church Publishing Incorporated for us to be able to use here in RitePlanning. When you do something in the library, what you can do is take a look at it in PDF format. You can download it, you can preview it. If it is a plannable service, and you're looking at services from the planner, you can also place the entire service on your clipboard, and it will be ready to paste in any place you want. This isn't necessarily all that useful, but it's doable. But you can preview Holy Eucharist Rite 1, and you see that it's got every option possible. So for the opening acclamation, we have the general one, Easter, Lent, all of the other possibilities, Decalogue, the opening anthem, all the different possibilities for canticles, the entirety of the Great Litany is there, all the various options. So again, if you push this on your clipboard, it's not going to help you very much, but you can look at all the possible options here for any of the plannable services. The other things that you can look at are some really nice things like new resources from church publishing, Planning for Rites and Rituals, for example, and you can find a set of dedicated prayers of the people for any Sunday in year B and year C. Since the program started, year A will go up sometime this fall before Advent. Those are new resources from Church Publishing Incorporated. If you're not familiar with them, they are a set of prayers of the people to be used based on the lectionary readings for that Sunday. They're really quite nice. It's really good to have them, and we're glad to be able to provide them for you. There is also a more inclusive version of the Psalter, the St. Helena Psalter. It's based on the versification of which is part of, matches the Book of Common Prayer Psalter with somewhat more inclusive language. The St. Helena Psalter is not usable in the planner in the way that the Book of Common Prayer Psalter is. That's something that's being contemplated, but it's not in there yet. If you wanted to use a specific psalm from the St. Helena Psalter, you could do so if you found the right one and then downloaded it and copied it into a regular clipboard and pasted it into a custom worship element in RitePlanning.com. I've tried this. I'll warn you now, it's a little bit odd because the formatting doesn't hold when you scrape it off of the PDF. So you need to be a little careful when you do that and put all the verses back in the right spot and watch out for the indentations. Other nice things to deal with, the NRSV Bible, which can be done with chapter and verse lookup. Or if you want to know when that is next coming up, John 3 shows up in the various lectionaries in several places over year A and year B. Both Book of Common Prayer and Revised Common Lectionary material shows results here. So double check your readings, make sure you're getting the right one on the right date. The other thing that you can do is look for a specific text. My soul magnifies, for example, and you find out that that's in Luke chapter 1, verse 46. If you click on this hyperlink, it gives you the entire chapter so you can see it in context. The music page is also quite nice. You can search for any hymn by title, by the tune name. Here's Sine Nomine for All the Saints, or Give Thanks for Life from Wonder, Love, and Praise, or a fraction anthem based on the same tune. All of three of those are available through the music page at RitePlanning. You can search by lectionary day. You can search by the type of music you're looking for. You can search by collection and hymn number, or if you search by collection without hymn number, you get the entire hymnal. You can search by license, one license or CCLI, but that data isn't complete at this point. We're still uploading things as often as possible. Visuals are a really nice thing to take a look at. You'll notice when we are looking at the Great Vigil of Easter here on this planner that there are several different sets of clip art that were ported over by license from Augsburg Fortress. There are at least 4 complete sets of lectionary-based clip art for every Sunday of the church year A, B, and C. So if you're looking for some way to decorate your bulletin, you can download that clip art and use it in worship. It has been licensed to Church Publishing Incorporated for that purpose. and life is good that way. With any luck, you'll find exactly something that you're looking for without having to leave the program. One quick last look at the homepage. The homepage, let's go back to today to look at this coming Sunday. You'll see that the collect of the day is there in both traditional and contemporary forms. The readings for the Sunday are there. Subscriber news, which tells you what's new in RitePlanning. Commemorations for the week, and plannable feasts and celebrations for the week down the left side. Worship plans for any future dates. When you subscribe to RitePlanning, this area will be blank because we have people who work in RitePlanning all the time. We have lots of worship plans because we're helping customers all over the place. Then the other thing that you can look at are worship templates. If you have any, we have a couple in here that I've done for webinar practice and some other things. Or this is where your custom texts are stored. So any of those things are accessible through the homepage. All right, that's a bit of brief overview. We've given you some help with customizable planning. We've been very happy that you joined us today, so thank you for joining me today for a look at some of the more advanced features and some of the basic features of RitePlanning. Remember, if you'd like to watch through our introductory webinar again, you can find a link to that webinar on the same page you used to sign up for this webinar. The link at the bottom of the page will take you to the archived webinar on YouTube. If you have a question or would like to know more about a feature of the program, I'm happy to have you contact me directly. My email address again is moorem@1517.media, MOOREM@1517.media. If you have questions specific to this webinar, please contact me there. If you have more general questions, email webhelp@augsburgfortress.org, webhelp@augsburgfortress.org. Please be sure to include a phone number. I've found that it's almost always best to have a conversation about these topics instead of exchanging emails. For one thing, email tone is a little hard to judge sometimes. For another, if it gets complicated, I know your eyeballs will roll into the back of your head and they'll have to call the paramedics. I really don't want that to happen. So please give us a phone number. We'll call you and talk with you about this. We might even help you by telling you to click where and when and how to show you how it works. And we're happy to do that. We have dedicated staff. I'm here all the way through Easter, with the exception of Good Friday when the company I work for is closed. And I'm happy to help you. My contact hours are 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central Time. Send me an email, send me your phone number. As long as I can get free to give you a call, I will do so. Again, thank you for joining us today. Have a blessed Easter. Let me know how we can help you, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks very much.